So it's 1 o'clock. I want to start on time, make sure everybody has enough time for presentations today. We have MGM speaking at the end, and we want to give her all the time. I have 3 door prizes today. So I'm going to do the first one now. I just want to make sure everybody puts themselves on mute if you aren't already on mute. If you want to talk or ask a question, either you can write it in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask the question, whatever you prefer. So the first door prize is a $25 Visa card from ES Foods. And it's number 79. That seems to be a popular number. Adrienne Schwartz. Is Adrienne on? Adrienne once, going twice. All right, let's try this again. $88. Where are you? Oh, I don't even know where my camera is. Is Jennifer Howell on? So Jennifer's not here either. Okay. Let's try this a third time.
You can pick my name. I'm happy to win.
13. Gavin Northey. I know you're here.
Woo-woo! Again.
Anchorage School District strikes again. He was lucky 13. So that's good, a good intro, Gavin. Gavin is our first presenter for the day. And he's going to talk about a study he did. I'm not quite sure what the title is, but Gavin, you want to go ahead and take it away?
There we go.
Look at his tie.
Ooh, look at that.
He did buy a new tie, MGM.
I like it.
Okay, there that goes. All right, so last year I did a study called the Analysis of National School Lunch Program Participation in Anchorage Secondary Schools. This is a study that we use transactional and student-based data to analyze our participation in our secondary school. So if anyone actually moved their little chat window, or your not your chat window, but your video window, you want to move it back, because I did actually make that section clear on the PowerPoint, so it won't cover anything important.
Oh, you're so tricky, Gavin. All right.
So first I want to start with the purpose of the study. So obviously the purpose of the study is to understand the factors that influence participation in the NSLP in our Anchorage secondary schools. So just a couple disclaimers and acknowledgements. This study was performed under the faculty with a faculty advisor at UAA, Dr. Alpina Desai. And this study is currently, we're in the process of getting it peer reviewed, but this study is based on the non-peer reviewed manuscript. So there are things that may be subject to change once we get the peer review back, or actually we have it back and we haven't looked at it yet. So I just obviously want to explain why we did this study, and then kind of talk to you about what our Anchorage secondary schools, and for those of you that haven't been here, what our study hypothesis was, the database and the study methodology, discuss what our results and our findings are, and obviously what's probably most important, how this impacts all of you, because some of what we'll find that influence our meal patterns here in Anchorage really don't apply to you, but how does this study really matter to not only the whole state of Alaska, but hopefully we'd like to see this study utilized all over the US or similar studies to this. So we'll just jump right into it. So why did we do the study? Well, first of all, we wanted to use data-driven decisions. And in order to get there, we need to move past a lot of anecdotal evidence. So, we look at surveys and we look at feedback we get, but those aren't always necessarily consistent, and they might be the same people, or they might be a non-representational sample. And so by using the data, our transaction and student data, we're really getting a larger picture of our students and getting a more statistical understanding of what's happening And obviously, child nutrition programs are important. We all know it. But there's actually study after study that shows how important child nutrition programs are. For example, child nutrition supports obviously food security and student health. But there's also studies that find that child nutrition programs support student attendance as well as academic achievement. So this study goes beyond just our food service, and we're all part of educational institutions, and it shows that we are an important part and an integral part of our educational institutions. So just a little bit of information about ASD secondary schools. So we have 18 middle and high schools that are neighborhood schools. In other words, the enrollment is based on where you live, and it's not like a charter or a special selection school. In those schools, we have an average daily membership in school year 2018-19 of 17,445 students. And our average daily participation was about a third of that. So 6,096 students per day were eating a school lunch. So what is our hypothesis in this study? Our hypothesis is that the following factors are going to have a significant influence on meal participation. So obviously demographics, eligibility. There's study after study that shows eligibility being the #1 impact or influence in meal participation. But we think there's plenty of other factors, operational and transactional influences, like how long it takes to get through the line, and whether or not students eat breakfast. Those that eat breakfast, we think, are more likely to also eat lunch. Obviously, what we offer on the menu and the nutrition and health factors. We also think that cyclic factors, and this is an interesting one. So day of the week has been, we've seen it, at least anecdotally, that there are certain days where we see more students and there's certain days where we see fewer students. But we also wanted to look at the time of the month. And that's an interesting one. But for most of you, you probably are aware that Alaska benefit cards, such as EBT cards and WIC cards, are loaded on the first of the month. So do we see a decrease at the beginning of the month because now families that are relying on WIC or SNAP or TANF are getting their benefit loads at the beginning of the month, and then they're running out of money towards the end of the month, and that participation rate increases. So that was one that we wanted to study. And of course, climate in Alaska, we know that snow could have an adverse effect or could have a positive effect if the kids are at school and it's snowing outside. Maybe they can't make it outside as easily, or it could just impact overall attendance, thus decreasing it. So those are the factors that we believe would impact it. So the data that we were able to use, we used data for almost 2 full school years from 2017 through 2019. We were able to pull just under 6 million daily enrollment and student transaction records for this study. In addition, we pulled production records, menu and nutritional data, and of course, we grabbed climate data from the National Climate Data Center. So one of the things that we looked at was traditionally, when we look at studies on child nutrition programs, we see that free and reduced versus full pay students are the factors that are used. But in actuality, we want to look beyond just free and reduced and paid as the 2 categories and look and see, does the categorical reason for their eligibility also matter? So we tried multiple different ways to break down this category, all the way till I think we had like 14 parameters, all the way down to whether or not the student was foster or RCCI. And what we came up with were the following factors: direct cert free, either SNAP, TANF, or extended; all other direct certs; free based on application; free based on CEP but not direct cert; reduced based on application; and full pay. So those were the categories that we found. Breaking it down that far seemed to be the most useful way to break it down in our study, versus breaking it down even further or breaking it down into more broader scales like free, reduced, paid, or free and reduced versus paid. Then we looked at cuisine type, and that's an interesting one. How do you classify when you're going through your entire menu? How do you categorically determine what each menu item is in somewhat of an objective way? And what we discovered was the best way to do that is I actually just went through Google's services and found out which categories that you can classify a restaurant in Google Maps or in your other Google business services. And we use those categories to classify cuisine. And so we utilized our menu and production data to merge the Google business categories and created a category called has cuisine. And then it has the list of, I think there were 14 different cuisine types that were used in the study. Then we wanted to look at whether or not a menu was healthier versus less healthier. And we looked actually for quite a while to find an objective way to do that. And one of the most objective ways we were able to find was the Healthy Eating Index. So many of you are familiar with the dietary guidelines for Americans. The Healthy Eating Index is essentially a measure of how compliant a menu is with the DGAs. And so we were able to pull, of the 13 categories that are in the HEI, we were able to calculate 12 of them. So on a HEI is generally on a scale of 0 to 100, but discounting the one scale that we were not able to obtain nutritional data, we just used a 90-point scale, 0 to 90, and just discounted that 10-point. We didn't try to rescale it. So we merged that, and we found the Anchorage menus typically ran, I think, around 45 was the median score of our Anchorage menus. And the beautiful thing about the HEI is it scales very well. HEI scales whether you're looking at one specific entree or whether you're looking entire menu offering because it's calorie based. And so we just rescore it based on every 1,000 kilocalories in the menu that's offered. So that also makes it so that it scales with age group, because a younger child that eats a smaller portion, because we're using that 1,000 kilocalorie baseline, that menu just scales down. So then we looked at operational conditions. One of the ones that was most important was figuring out transaction time. And so what we did is we pulled every transaction record in the point of sale system, and then we calculated the time between each transaction on each point of sale device, and then aggregated that per school, and then calculated a mean time between each transaction. Now, the mean time between each transaction is a useful number because it tells you how fast or slow the line is moving, but oftentimes we're making decisions based on what we observed yesterday or possibly the day before. So what we found is that we lagged it back 5 days. So we took the previous 5 operating days and the current day and took the mean time between transaction among those 6 days to calculate what we call the MTBT score, or in this case, the MTBT-5. And that gave us a measure of what people perceived as the waiting time to get in and out of the lunch line. And then, like I said before, we used that cyclic calendar data. And so we just extracted the day of the week, the weekday, from the transaction timestamp, as well as the week of the month. And we just used 1 through 5 for the week of the month. So I don't want to bore many of you guys with analysis methodology. I mean, if you want to get bored, give me a call later. But I'll try and keep the analysis stuff fairly top level. So we use what's called a logistic regression. What that means is that we were using a lot of categorical variables. You can't numerically assign, for example, what category of a restaurant is. In fact, you can't even numerically define free or reduced eligibility. I mean, is free how much more than reduced? There's not a quantitative way to define that. So because we use so many categorical variables, we use what's called logistic regression. It's very good with working with categorical data. And then we score it based on whether or not we think that the likely outcome is going to be either one, that a student is going to eat an NSLP lunch, or zero, the student does not eat the lunch. We used a combination of manual and what's called stepwise regression. So we manually select variables. For example, we had a lot of weather variables. Well, at some point, the high temperature and the low temperature are kind of, they move together a lot. I mean, it's not always perfect, right? Some days you get a high that's much higher than the low and vice versa, but generally speaking, they move together. So we started to weed out some of those variables manually. And once we got it down to an acceptable level, we use what's called a stepwise regression, where we allow a computer to take all of the other variables in our data set and build the regression model by automatically trying every combination of model until it finds the right one. And we do that by maintaining the model at what we call a 95% confidence. So we're 95% confident that this model is good. And so through a combination of manual and then automatic and then manual variable selection, we derived the model that we are presenting. And then we repeated that step by using subsets of that. So we did a model with all of the data, and then we broke that model down. For example, we did one model that only had students that were full pay students. We did another model that was only CEP schools, and another model that was only pricing schools. So what the regression comes back with is what's called an odds ratio. You get what's called a logit in your regression equation, and then you can convert that logit to what's called an odds ratio, which is what we're presenting here. The odds ratio is a little bit more understanding. What this means, for example, if we're looking at our full model for our eligibility, our full pay students are what we call the reference variable or the reference parameter. So everything is in reference to a full pay student. For example, if we read this first line, a direct cert, SNAP, or TANF student, we see that we're 99 or 95% confident they're between 8.02 and 8.13 times more likely than a full pay student to eat lunch if all other variables remain the same. And so what we found really interesting here, speaking of the direct cert, is that when we're looking at that direct cert, we see that the odds ratio there is 8.07, but that same direct cert, SNAP, TANF, when we're only looking at our pricing schools, drops to 6.34. So generally speaking, we're talking about students that are in a similar economic situation. They're on SNAP or TANF. One set of students, we're looking at the entire district. The other set of students, we're only looking at pricing schools. And it drops from 8 to 6.3. And that's a pretty significant change. So, of course, the other variables in our full model that were important were the free app was the next highest odds ratio, CEP, then reduced, and then all other direct cert. So it's interesting, even within direct cert, it mattered whether or not you were directly certified through SNAP or TANF, or you were directly certified through another categorical means. Another interesting one was the breakfast variable. So you'll see here that district-wide, students that ate breakfast, secondary students eating breakfast, were 4.88 times more likely to take lunch, all other things being equal, than those that did not. Now, one of the questions that I am curious about is this a causal relationship? In other words, do students that eat breakfast also eat lunch, or are they kind of collinear variables in a way, in that really the same students that are eating breakfast are also going to eat lunch. So we don't know if that's a causal relationship, but it's interesting to note that if we see a student eat breakfast, they're very much more likely to also eat lunch. So then we look at our weekday variable, and I'll get back to this a little bit later, but you can see here that the variables now we're starting to get to where they're 1.0 something. So they're much more, much less influential than our eligibility or our breakfast variable. But compared to Monday, for example, Tuesday is an increase and Friday is a decrease. So this isn't very surprising in that, I mean, people are tending to start to drop off the attendance map on Friday afternoon. And then week of the month. So I mentioned earlier our EBT cards that are loaded on the first of the month. So we expected that the week of the month would result in a lower participation in the first week of the month and then an increasing participation as the month progresses, as students start to use that EBT card, or as families start to use that EBT card up, that students would rely more on our school lunch program. And if you look at these, although relatively close to 1, we're actually seeing nominal decreases in the likeliness that a student is going to participate as the month progresses. So that's kind of an interesting outcome that we did not expect. And then we look at quantitative variables and we read these a little bit differently. So for example, our mean time between transactions here, this tells us that for every 1 second of increased time that it takes to progress through the line, that the students were 0.99 times as likely to participate in lunch, all other things being equal. That's also an interesting statistic that we'll jump back to when we look at some comparisons between full pay and all students. Our HEI 90 score, we actually had to take it out. So in this, you see that it's 1. We actually had to take it out to the thousands. It's very slightly positive at 1.002. That's pretty insignificant, but what it does tell us is that increasing nutritional standards is not adversely affecting. It may not necessarily be improving participation, but it is not adversely affecting participation to have healthier meals. And that's actually a good thing, because if it's not making it worse, then participation is unaffected, but we're increasing the quality of the nutrition that we're offering our students. We saw in our weather variables, precipitation was probably the most important one here at 1.1. The other one I thought was interesting was snowfall is ever so slightly down, which I partly wonder, because we don't have access to attendance data, if snowfall is really just a proxy for attendance. So attendance goes down because snow causes people to not come to school. So therefore participation in the meal program goes down. I would be very curious if we could isolate it and see attendance as its own factor. Would snowfall cause, much like precipitation, would snowfall cause an increase in participation of those students that made it to school? Because now they don't, once they're there, they don't want to leave, or maybe their parents tell them, no, don't leave school once you get there. And then low temperature had a fairly nominal impact as well. So now, what did we learn about our cuisine? Because I haven't brought that back out. So we saw in our full model that Italian, Asian, bakery, and breakfast items actually had a minor increase in, I think they all ranged between about 1.05 and 1.14 odds ratio. So they were nominal influencers, increasing likeliness of lunch participation. What was interesting in our whole model, we saw that salad, seafood, pizza, barbecue, hamburger, and chicken were ones that contributed to decreases. But when we only isolated our full pay students, chicken, hamburger, and pizzas were actually most likely to increase those participants. So we're seeing a variance, a fairly substantial variance now between our full pay and our entire student population. Looking at some other factors that vary between full pay and our entire district. So our HEI index, remember I said we took it out to 3 decimal points to see if it was positive or negative, and it was ever so slightly positive. But when we look at our full pay students, it actually drives participation down, again, ever so slightly. The other one that's interesting is our MTBT, our mean time between transactions. Again, as we would expect, longer lines mean less participation. But in our full pay students, we're actually seeing an increase. Again, relatively minor here, 1.02. But it's an interesting look at what is driving our full pay students to either participate or not participate in the meal program. So how long it takes to get through the line may not be as relevant as whether or not they can get chicken or pizza. Our weekday trends were also interesting. Again, I mentioned that overall Tuesday increased likeliness and Friday decreased likeliness. But again, amongst our full pay students, Thursdays and Fridays were the ones that increased likeliness for participation. So some of the findings that we took from this, and some of these may apply to you more than others, but we did find that categorical eligibility matters. Going beyond that basic free and reduced and understanding how each different category impacts participation, it did make a difference. And we, like I mentioned at the beginning, when we looked at, like, for example, our direct cert, even SNAP and TANF had the highest impact, especially relative to direct cert, all other categories. There were substantial differences. CEP makes a difference. Now, CEP free, because that's extended to any student in that school, it's a little bit mired because you could have students that are in families with 6-figure incomes that are eligible for a free meal. Nutrition quality, again, the really important finding here was that nutrition quality did not adversely affect participation. So it does support the belief that the HHFKA, the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, is not detrimental to school lunch programs before. And in fact, some of the reading I had found on this indicated that HHFKA initially had a downward impact because the change, but we're seeing now that, relatively speaking, it's not as impactful. In fact, some school districts now are reporting higher participation than before HHFKA was introduced. I think nationwide, though, the last study that I saw from SNA did indicate that overall participation was down, but it was difficult to link that to HHFKA nutritional standards or not. So then the other thing that I think was interesting from this, again, was the variance between our free and reduced students and our full pay students. And this is a really important difference because on one hand, the school lunch program is here to help our students that are having food security issues. So we obviously want to make sure our food programs are accessible and are serving our free and reduced customers well. But one of the challenges that we run into is that if we were to focus on catering to free and reduced students, do we then lose paid students, which then drives that stigma, which, let me jump back to the odds ratio between direct cert students at full pay, at pricing schools versus CEP schools. We see that a statistic that really should be pretty close to the same dropped pretty significantly. And that, to me, is an indication that there is a stigma attached to the free and reduced program, that we continue. It's a challenge that I think has pervaded the school nutrition program since its inception, that there is a perception that those that participate are low income. And so that's a challenge that we have to address, and bringing in more paid students to our program and bringing them in, whether it's for a la carte or a full reimbursable meal, it does support all of the school coming to the cafeteria, because it's not just for the poor kids, for lack of better words. So the other challenge that, again, going back to our difference in our menus and our preferences in our MTBT and our HEI scores, we based a lot of our menu on the best quality anecdotal and survey data that we had. But what was really interesting with this pandemic, for example, is the Anchorage School District did a survey this spring. They did a survey to find out whether or not parents wanted to bring their kids back to school. And the results of that survey, they got the results, but the results were rather questionable, because I think something like 70% of the respondents were middle-aged white women. Well, if you've looked at the Anchorage School District's demographics, we are the third most diverse school district in America. And so 70% of our parents are not middle-aged white women. So much like the survey that the Anchorage School District did this spring, are the survey and feedback mechanisms that we're using also only capturing a small subset of that our student population. And it seems like that might be the case based on the fact that full pay students participate about 12% of the time versus free and reduced and CEP students that are participating over 50% of the time. So we're capturing, as a percentage of our meals, something like 20% of our eaters are representing 50% of the menu. And that is a concern that we have to address. The other finding that we had is that this transactional data, using this transactional data did seem to improve the data quality. Again, we found that the survey and anecdotal data that we've been using is not representative, and that through transaction data, we're better able to understand what's driving students to eat or not eat. And so finally, I mean, all this data is really cool, but how do we use that? What my hope personally is that we see more data-based studies like this in schools and really digging down into transaction level data. A lot of studies are survey-based. And again, we're finding that survey data may not be that great. I think, I mean, we look around the rest of the world and data is driving everything, all the way from these huge airlines are making data-driven decisions, all the way down to food service establishments. I mean, everything is becoming more data-driven with the more data points that are available. School nutrition is still not always data-based because, I mean, let's face it, a lot of us don't have time for that. But as the cost of doing these surveys and doing these studies decreases, and it will, I think we can use models like this as a template to use in other school districts around the US. I mean, we're all operating under the same NSLP, so to a certain degree, the same factors are going to apply. So I think that we'll be able to apply similar models to this. The methodology seems to be pretty sound, and we can apply that throughout the US. And I think other school districts, medium-sized school districts, can start to employ this kind of model, and that will also drive down the cost as people develop these models and use open source software like R and Python to develop new and more refined models and automated modeling methods. That drives the cost down for everyone. Much like if anyone remembers, HD TVs came out long ago, and they were all, you know, $5,000–6,000. None of us could afford it. And now you can go buy an HD TV for something like $80. So I think the same thing will happen here as more data analysis methodologies become available. I mean, we see in some enterprise software, data analysis is just built into enterprise software. So, I mean, do we see vendors like Primero, Titan, PCS, et cetera, starting to build those into their model, into their software? It's very likely that in the next 10 years, that'll be the case. So, I mean, I think one thing that we need to do is really be ready for that and organize our data. I have a few tips, whether or not you're planning on doing a data study like this or not. I mean, this is just good business, is to get your data in order. You might use it for an audit, or you might use it for a data study in the future, but keep your granular data. I'll just tell you, when I started here, a lot of the granular data that was down to student level or even school and day level was not being maintained electronically. So they were keeping it because obviously we have to have it recorded, but it would be in paper file. And so one of the things I did is to start making sure that that data was actually archived and not deleted, because you never know when you're going to want to get a master's degree and do a data study. And again, store it electronically, because nobody wants to hand jam 6 million records back into the computer. And then consider the cost versus potential benefit. So obviously, if you're already collecting data because it's required, then there's obviously no cost to it because you have to do it anyway. But if you wanted to collect new data, like let's say you wanted to collect information about your staff that's not in your HR files, and you have to start collecting that, is there potential benefit? It really depends. Maybe you're interested in whether or not seniority impacts the quality of your employee productivity. And so you start collecting employee seniority. You probably keep that in your HR files, and that's probably relatively easy to track. But if you decide that you want to get even more in depth and pull at demographic details like ethnicity, gender, etc., to also track that and see if there's any relevance to productivity, there might be a substantial cost to acquire and then secure that data, because now you're talking about personally identifiable information. So you have to consider your cost. I mean, but a lot of the data that we used for this study was stuff that we already tracked. I mean, it was production records, it was transaction logs. So there's really relatively no cost to keep it other than to just not delete it. So that really, I think, wraps up our study, and I hope that you're able to find at least find this interesting, if not find some of this useful and relevant to your day-to-day job.
There was a question, Gavin. Is the Anchorage High Schools, do they have open campus?
We do.
Okay. Any more questions for Gavin?
Gavin, is that open campus regulated to juniors and seniors or all students?
All students.
Wow, okay. Because that would have an impact on your full meals and stuff too.
So interesting, it does, yes. So we know anecdotally, and actually one of the interesting points on open campus is that Eagle River schools had a lower, we looked at the grade. And as grade progresses, this is nationwide, this is true. As a student's grade increases, their likelihood to participate decreases. This is a nationwide, if you look at the last school meal study, cost study, you'll see that they have a chart in there about the grade level and the participation decreases. So we see the same thing, but we actually saw that it doesn't decrease as much in our Eagle River schools. And I think we don't have good data on competitive foods, but we think it's because it's harder to get off of the Eagle River campuses. Our Eagle River High School and our Chuyak High School are relatively far away from any fast food restaurants. And so it actually, the impact of that grade increase was less at those schools. So we think that might have been a proxy for that open campus variable. But another interesting fact is, looking around at closed campus schools, I think that participation rate, for example, in high school CEP high schools, was somewhere around 60%. So we're looking at our high schools being around 40 and 45%. So there is a pretty substantial amount that we could increase if we could reach that theoretical 60% participation, but it wouldn't bring us to elementary level. For example, one of our elementary CEP schools has a participation rate of, I think it hits the attendance factor almost. I think it's around like 90 or 91%. So there certainly is an impact, but I don't think the impact is as much as people wish it would be. It's not going to give us 100% participation.
Okay. Well, I noticed that, like, I've got that same thing with some of my high schools that I oversee. Those that are sitting in the core, it's a 15-minute drive either to Palmer or Wasilla for fast food, so their numbers are a little higher. The other thing I noticed is as they get higher in grades, sophomores and seniors, or not sophomores, juniors and seniors, sorry, because they only need so many credits here, they get out at half day, so they don't stick around for lunch and stuff. So that was interesting stuff. It's good to see what you guys are up to.
Yeah, and another new factor that came up as we were starting the study that we really have no way of working with at this time is DoorDash and Grubhub. I mean, now we've got stories. I don't know about other school districts, but we've got anecdotal evidence that students are ordering Grubhub and DoorDash delivered to the school. And that completely changes your, right now, for example, again, like your Eagle River school, it's going to be harder to get to a restaurant, but now the restaurant comes to you. So that location, you know, it's location, 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 but now the location is you, and that completely changes the impact that it might play. So we're not even sure right now how that's going to factor into things.
You know, I never thought about it, but I also see local pizza delivery cars pulling in. It's like, hey, pizza's here. It's like, all right, well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Gavin. I know there's some questions, Gavin, in the chat. Maybe you can answer them, go through, because we're running short on time. So I'm sure Gavin will answer those questions that are in the chat box. I have another door prize, a $25 gift certificate from Simplot. It's number 10. I don't know where my camera is. Lisa Flory, are you on today? Let me see.
I'm here.
Lisa, all right, Lisa. Okay. Congratulations. Yay. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Susan.
Uh-huh. Okay, moving on. We've asked Beth Seitz to have the Sitka School District business manager, Cassee, Olin, and I don't know if Leslie's on the line too. She's a grant administrator, I believe, at the Sitka. She does files all the claims for NSLP and the summer foods. So Beth, if you want to take it away, we have about 15 minutes, and then MGM has her great thing. Thank you.
Hi there. So Leslie, I believe you're on. I could have sworn I saw your name, and I know Cassee was on too. So over the last few years, probably the last 4 or 5 years, we've noticed that Sitka and their business team, especially with nutrition, your nutrition department, which Leslie kind of oversees primarily, seems to have a very good working relationship within the other business partners, like the procurement folks, and just you also are unique in the fact that you have a food service management company that you work closely with, and I just would really like you guys to kind of go over your processes on how you guys seem to keep a close connection and making sure that your nutrition department is at the forefront of your business offices and your business managers, because not many districts, a lot of times the nutrition department is the last thing that they look at. And you guys seem to always have a very strong presence.
That would be Cassie's doing. She's the boss. And it is, my only thing is it's a lot of it is communication. And then making up to your expectations of what you want from your food program. And I defer to Cassee on all the contractual and stuff like that, but we work with our vendors, and they have to be part of our team to be able to make that work.
Yeah, and I would say the biggest thing for me is well, I am the business manager, but I'm also the director of food service. So that helps me with the financial part of all this. And so my concentration to make sure food service runs in a way that the general fund doesn't have to support it is one of my bigger goals, just because we are in budget cut times. And so a lot of times that's where everybody wants to go. We have been with a contractor for roughly about 30 years now. And so we know no difference than an in-house versus a contractor. And so we've never had, to deal with benefits of people and dealing with HR responsibilities and those options. And so for a contractor, for us, it all begins with the RFP, which has a lot of legal and a lot of USDA, which Beth helps greatly on that. We have to meet their requirements of whatever they put into for that period of time. We're actually due up to go out for RFP, but we have waivers for the last 2 years because of lovely COVID. Because I will say writing an RFP for a food management company for contracting is a feat unto itself. It's probably over 125 pages, I would say. But we've also had it for 30 years, so we kind of have our template and everything's ready to go. My biggest suggestion in regards to that is everything you put in that RFP and in that contract, you make sure they toe the line to those. And so a lot of our provisions and our things that are in there have been in there for a long time. And as long as it doesn't go against any of the USDA regulations, then it can stay in. And if you can get a contractor to agree to it, then you can have that. Leslie does the day-to-day, and she's kind of more of the person who deals with applications and deals with the day-to-day operations. I'm more of the crap has hit the fan here, fix this. And that's more my job. And I meet and try to figure out things, and we try to do some logistical or anything of that nature. So for the most part, I think the biggest part is also we have a great connection with Joe, our head chef down here. Her and I and Leslie work pretty well as a team. We're always constantly working and figuring out logistically what we need to do, how things are going to go, whether or not we have, everything in place, especially with COVID. It's been interesting into itself. Leslie has done a fabulous job with everything. Our numbers are super high and super well. And we, are actually switching back on Monday the 1st to food back in the classroom for breakfast, and then lunches will be sent home. We're no longer going to be doing delivery. So we're going to attempt that again and see what happens. And yeah, like Leslie said, the biggest thing that we probably do is communication. We always are communicating with them. We're always keeping up on things. And anytime there's kind of a problem or a situation arises, we have to make sure that the contractor knows about it and that we're able to address all the situations and emergencies and issues. And trust me, we've had our HR problems. We've had some really interesting things happen with fish and with everything in between. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Yeah. So you guys tend to every time I've come there for reviews and things, I've always really had a good handle on the ARs, the admin reviews, very organized. And yes, Leslie does seem to be very strong on the day-to-days. But I just noticed how whenever I've gone to other schools within your district, that everybody is on the same page, that you guys obviously have a very strong communication between with your principals, with your other kitchen managers and things. Even though Joe, who's with the food service management company, you can tell though there's a very strong cohesion between you, Leslie, and the food service management company. And so I really greatly appreciate that, especially since it's not always like that when I go to other districts for reviews that possibly have food service vendors or not. But you guys really seem to have a very strong team effort. And you are also, I did notice that your numbers were up this last few months, and with COVID and everything, you guys really had taken to heart the whole school closure and really promoted the program to make sure that kids were getting fed across the Sitka area, and that you guys were going that extra mile. Would you or Leslie like to kind of highlight that, just in how you guys kind of handled that?
That's Leslie. That's all Leslie.
That's all Leslie.
She just comes
Well,
to me and say, yeah, sure.
Sure. Well, again, most of that just comes down to build it and they will come. And you talk to the bus companies, you talk to the people that, can we do this? How many can we serve? We have prepared for? And then just getting that information to our customers and saying, these are your options. And then of course, letting all our support staff in each building know that these are what's being sent to these parents, and to also promote it. And then it just, like I said, it's that domino effect of like, so people then aren't surprised. They're like, I didn't understand how to sign up. I didn't understand how to get my meal. I didn't understand. So you avoid that. You try to be that totally proactive, and getting in there and addressing even the smallest issues. And yes, many extra hours due to COVID, but even during a normal year, it's just getting on those applications, building a relationship with the state, and doing SRMs daily has been a huge help for addressing any of the eligibility issues and getting people eligible right away, so they weren't building negative balances and you weren't having to deal with submitting claims again because you've missed so many eligibilities. But yeah, from the day to day, it's just, working with them and valuing that person and empowering them to do more for the children, and that's what it's about. It's feeding kids and feeding the most kids we can, and doing that day to day. That's just, like I say, working with everybody and making it happen. I don't know. That's what I do.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Leslie. And thank you very much, Cassee, for the input on just how you work with your business partners within your district. I know we've got a couple more minutes. Were there any questions that anybody might have?
There's one. Jennifer just had a comment. She says Sitka really helped. Oh, it went away. Sitka really helped Anchorage as a mentor for working with our SRMs being more frequent.
Yay!
Yes, Sitka happens to be utilize the state's Primero Edge system. And early on, when we first got it, Leslie was a huge person of just tackled it and got it to be automated for the Sitka School District, and helped a lot of other districts go on the same route. So if you have questions and would like to, if your system is not automated with Primero Edge yet, maybe Leslie could give you some pointers.
I am not I can do the manual SRMs, but it is knowing all your people and who does what in your district, and getting them to do that for you. Because we're a small district, so IT guy that manages the SRM for me is just 2 doors down, and it is saying, and this is their job, is to make data transfer back and forth. And don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to ask repeatedly. And when it goes down, it's their job to put it back up. And don't be afraid to say, this makes your job easier. Then it makes getting the kids their food and eligibilities done. It should be a priority. So make it happen.
And I would say that I think it was Leslie that said, Jennifer, you have to take the bull by the horns and just keep saying it, and eventually they'll realize. And because the SRM process conflicts, if there's even one student wrong, they realize that by doing it weekly, it was easier because there was less to sort out. It was more recent, and it really increased our revenue. So I appreciate that.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you taking the time to speak, and if anyone has any questions about how Sitka runs such a well-oiled machine, I'm sure Cassee or Leslie would be more than willing to talk to you further. I have one last door prize. It's a $75 gift code for purchases at this site called Madeline's Pantry. It's through Muffin Town, and it's a bakery. And I went online and looked, and they have some really, really good stuff. They have cookies and brownies, and so good. So you'll get a code for $75 worth of merchandise to be sent to you. So this is 84, which is Gavin again. Sorry, Gavin, you can't win twice. I swear there's so many double things on there. Okay, let's try it again. 48.
Can we take Gavin to Vegas?
Yes. Tanya Kraus from
I'm here.
Anchorage School District.
I'm here.
You guys are just crazy. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys. That's all of the door prizes I have. So I'll get either the broker vendor will get a hold of you guys. I'm going to send them everybody's information who won the door prizes, and they'll get their prizes to you. So for our keynote speaker, we have MGM, who's going to take it away.
Yay! All right, I'm thrilled to be here. This is just like coming home. From Fairbanks to Anchorage, from Sitka to Cordova, you fill my heart. You just fill my heart. So, for those that do not know me, I'm a little bit of a crybaby. So if I cry, just turn me loose, just let me go, because sometimes I touch my own heart. But I just want to tell you, my name is Maureen Gail Mulvaney. My mama named me that, so my initials will be MGM, her big production. That's a true story. You can't even make that stuff up. And so I'm here today to make a big production. And I want to thank each and every one of you for wearing red. Gavin even wore a red tie. How exciting is that? So, why I wanted you to wear red. Number one, it's a vibrant color. You just feel energetic when you wear it. Number two, y'all have heart. Period. End of story. They say that the kitchen is the heart of the home. So that must mean that the cafeteria is the heart of the school. You are the heart, whether you like it or not, and we are the heart. That means now more than ever, these 2 years of COVID have absolutely hurt us in many ways, but it's also given us the opportunity to step on up and revive, because we are the heart of the school. So we have to be more loving to each other, more loving to ourselves, and more loving to the parents and students that we serve. So that's why I will ask you to wear red, because on those days that you're feeling a little down, a little discouraged, what I want you to do is touch that red and remember this feeling that you are the heart of the school. You are heart of every single school in America, and you are saving America one 5-star school meal at a time. So that's who I want to talk about today. I don't just like school nutrition. If y'all don't know who I am, I adore you. I absolutely love you. And never will I let anybody disrespect you or you disrespect each other. So I want to start by telling you the story. I speak all over the nation. Thankfully, God bless, y'all have made me the #1 rated school nutrition speaker in the nation. So let's give it up for that. Thank you for doing that. I say, make some noise. I told y'all to bring something to make some noise. So even if nobody else can hear it, hit your hands, shake your things, move your hands so that everybody knows you're having a good time. But y'all are the ones I absolutely adore. And so I was speaking in New York, and I had to laugh because in this thing, and like I'm doing today, this is not a presentation. I don't want you to think of this as a presentation. I want you to think of this as a heart rally. Today, we are having a heart rally. I want to touch your heart because you touch my heart every single day. I believe without any, I just know you are the most important people in the school system. I know that because I know who you are. And so I was speaking to a whole bunch of you, and they had red shirts on. You could tell that we were having a heart rally. And so to my right, there was a side door. And in that side door comes this guy. He was a teacher. I could tell he was a teacher because he disregarded all of the people that were sitting in front of me. And he just kind of thought he could just walk right past y'all. So like I said, I will never let anybody disrespect you. So he started, because what had happened is they usually came in the right side, walked across the front of the room, and went to their classrooms down to the left. So he's coming right for this group, and he starts to walk in front of y'all, and I just went, ah! And then he made the biggest mistake of his life. He walked in front of me. Ah! I had the microphone. And so sure enough, and I'm 5 foot nothing. Y'all can't tell that from this picture, but I am. And this guy was 6'4". He was a tall drink of water. I had to look up, crane my neck just to even see him. So what happened is I was so stunned because listen to me, I know everybody in this audience, I know what you would have done. If you had come into that room, would you have walked in front of a group that was having a presentation? Not in a million years. You're school nutrition. You have rules and you're polite. And you would have what? Walked around. That would have been the smart thing to do. But this guy walks right in front of me. So like I said, I will never have anybody disrespect y'all. So what did I do? I stopped him right in his step and I put my hand up and I said, respectfully, sir. Now you have to understand, I'm from the South. And in the South, we can tell you to go to hell in such a way that you enjoy the trip. Yes, that's what we do. I know y'all like that one. But anyway, so this guy said, respectfully, and I stopped him right then. I looked him right in the eye, tried to, and I said to him, sir, I realize you are a teacher, and I know you do not get paid enough for what you do. But I said, you're sitting in front of you. I want you to know who you're walking in front of. These are the school nutrition professionals in this school. They do as much, if not more work than you do every single day, and they get paid a fraction of what you get paid. And on top of that, they have to put up with people that devalue them. So let me take a moment to educate you on who you are walking in front of. You see, before you have school nutrition professionals. These are the people that are serving your students every single day, fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk in the exact right proportions to keep reduce childhood obesity. And they are serving these meals every single day because they're saving America by 1 5-star meal at a time. What they do for you is 1 out of every 5 kids in the United States of America is hungry. These are your students, and they are feeding them these exceptional nutrients, and that means they raise your test scores, they lower your behavior problems, and they serve these nutritious meals from the safest, cleanest kitchens on the planet. So, sir, I'm going to ask you to please respect my wonderful professionals, and you may have 2 choices. You may either A, sit yourself down and enjoy this presentation, or you may walk around. Which would you prefer to do? This guy, y'all would have just walked around. What did he do? He went to give me some flack because he was from New York. I might be little, honey, but I'm not putting up with that from anybody. And so I raised my hand again because now I think he couldn't hear me. I raised it up and I said, sir, respectfully, let me educate you on who you're walking in front of. These are the school nutrition professionals that are saving America 1 5-star meal at a time. They serve your children fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk in the exact right proportions every single day to reduce childhood obesity. They are raising your test scores. They are lowering your behavior problems, and they are serving it from the safest, cleanest kitchens on the planet. You can eat off their floors. So let me again, sir, make it clear to you. Precious, would you rather sit yourself down or walk around? And so what did he do? He finally says, ma'am, I'll walk around. So he gets halfway around that room, and I looked at him and I said, sugar, would you be so kind as to tell every other teacher in this school, don't you dare come in that side door because I don't want you disrespecting school nutrition. And so we didn't have another person walk through that door in the afternoon. Why I tell you this story is I think y'all do not know your importance. Somehow, I don't know how it happens, and I think it's because y'all are just so humble. You're just the most humble people on the planet. Lord have mercy, you won't toot your own horn. You got to toot toot. You got to toot toot. You can't just sit back. You have to now. It's time. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. I've had enough. I've had enough of us in school nutrition acting mamby-pamby. I taught school for 20 years. I loved you then. I love you now. And so we've got to stop this mamby-pamby. If we're going to thrive in 2021, we got to step on up. We got to stand up and we got to speak up. And I don't say you have to do it in a mean way. You can do it in the kindest, most compassionate way, but you have to start speaking up so that people know who we are. Somehow they don't get who we are. And so what we have to do is we have to show them. And the best way to show them is start speaking up. You see, I did teach school for many, many years in a very, very poor part of Maryland. It was called Port Tobacco. And just like you, I had students that were living in poverty. I had students that their mamas and daddies had lost their job. I had some students that mamas and daddies had gone to jail. I had some students that most of my students were CEP. And so I had some challenging times back then. And this is what you've got going on right now. And then you put COVID on top of that, and we've got some challenges. But we have got to know we are the heart of the school. And for us to be the heart, we have got to know who we are. We've got to stand up for ourselves, because I know that Alaska is a small, big state. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody. And so what has to happen is we have got to start speaking up, and we've got to start supporting each other. Let's use this and learn how to speak this. And let me show you how to do it. Sometimes I, as a teacher, we might have had a field trip, and I might have forgotten to put my lunch list in with y'all, but y'all liked me because I was sweet and y'all really liked me. And so, but the other teachers, if they didn't do it, they would get mad. And what happens when a teacher gets mad? They come zooming down to your lunchroom and to your cafeteria, and they start yelling. And here's what we do. Instead of us sticking together like glue, we go, whew, glad she's not yelling at me, and we just take off and we let one person take it. We can't do that anymore. We got to stick together like glue, because the only way we're going to make it through this pandemic, the only way we're going to make it through these challenges that we've got facing us, is to do it better, stronger together. So repeat after me. Even if you're saying it to yourself, you don't have to unmute, because we'll have a 10-second delay and we'll go blah, blah, blah. And so instead, just say it to yourself. We are better, stronger together. We are better, stronger together. Let me see your lips move. We are better, stronger together. We are better, stronger together. That's how we're going to get through this pandemic. Better, stronger together. So we got to stick together. So the next time a teacher or a parent or an administrator comes down and they're not happy with something y'all are doing, instead of just getting upset, this is what I want you to do. Every single one of you that is not already engaged with a student, I want you to come back from the person that they're yelling at and stand behind them. You don't have to say anything. All you have to do is stand there and support them. I want you to put your hand on their shoulder. And then I want the person that they're yelling at to say these words, because you can't step up, you can't stand up if you don't know how to speak up. So you got to speak up like this. And you look at Mrs. Jones and you say, Mrs. Jones, I can see from the sound of your voice that you're as passionate about these children as we are. You start by complimenting them, even if you have to make it up. And you say, I can see you're as passionate as we are about these children. And let me please to educate you as to what we do here. We are school nutrition professionals, and we serve your children fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk in the exact right proportion to reduce childhood obesity. Because 1 out of every 5 kids in the United States is hungry, this is helping to raise your test scores, lower your behavior problems, and we serve these nutritious meals from the safest, cleanest kitchens on the planet. And you can eat off our floors. So we would like to invite you to come eat off our floors. So what day would be best for you, Wednesday or Thursday? Precious. And so, oh, come on, shake your hands. You know you like that. And so what you're going to do, if you can learn to say this, it's brilliant, because A, it calms them right down. B, it lets them know who you are and that you're on their side. You will help them, because it used to be 1 in 5. I'm telling you, just yesterday I heard it is 1 in 4. This is heartbreaking. We're the richest country in the world. And we got 1 out of every 4 kids in the United States of America is hungry. And so y'all got to understand this. We no longer can continue just doing business the way we've been doing it. We have got to change virtually everything. And this COVID has shaken us up to the point that has given us the opportunity to do that. So that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to learn to step up. We're going to learn to stand up, and we're going to learn to speak up. Because is there anybody, raise your hand in this audience, if you think it is not the right thing to feed these children fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk? Is there anybody that thinks that's the wrong thing to do? Of course it's not. Those are our 5 meal components. And yet some of y'all going, I didn't know we did that. Yes, that's what we've been serving since 2010 when we went crazy when they wanted us to do it. We serve fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk. Everybody put your right hand up, please, and show, well, let's do it together. What do we serve? Fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk. Notice where I put whole grain. No, don't put that on camera. Don't record that. I put whole grain here because y'all have had the most trouble with whole grain. And still to this day, you keep saying, look at Michelle, she's almost fallen out of her chair. And so still some of y'all are saying whole grain, but the pasta won't stick together. Well, go to that virtual food show. Sue has said time and time again, y'all having a virtual food show. Go to that virtual food show because I know they've got pasta that can stick together. So I want to stop hearing that stuff. And we want to do fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk. Listen to me. You're the only ones on the planet serving this. The only ones. There's not a fast food restaurant in America that hold a candle to you. And you are the only ones because the mamas and daddies, I'll guarantee you they're not doing it because we stopped home economics in 1990. So these parents don't know how to serve fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk. When they go to the grocery store, they don't shop on the outside like you're supposed to do, like we learned in home economics. They're shopping in the middle and they're buying all things in boxes. They take the box home, they put it in the water, and then they serve the mac and cheese or whatever they're serving. The box has more fiber than that. Let me give you a flash. And so you're the only ones that are doing this, and you're the heart of the school. So let me hear you say, I am the most important person in the school system. Everybody touch your shirt, touch your thing. I am the most important person in the school system. Why? Because 1 out of every 5 kids is hungry, and who's got the food? We do. Who can serve these kids fruits, vegetables, whole grain, and protein and milk? We can. And so we're the ones getting the job done. So I want you to know, I truly believe in my heart of hearts that you're the most important people in the school system. And that's what we're going to start now. So I'm going to switch over now from speaking to you directly, and I'm going to switch to my presentation. This exciting, I love technology. And so what I'm going to say to you is, I've already told you I'm MGM. I am the #1 rated school nutrition speaker. Thank you for making that happen for me. And so also I'm going to shut this so it doesn't distract me so I can't see myself looking at myself. And so what I'm also going to do is I'm going to say, if you want to contact me, you can reach me at mgmsuperstar.com, or you can call me anytime on my cell phone and text me 480-280-6776. And so I also want you to know, welcome. We're here to celebrate Alaska school nutrition. We are here to celebrate each and every single one of you because I believe it's the right thing to do. Serving fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk in the exact right proportions that are reducing, and eliminating childhood obesity is the exact right thing to do. How are we going to get it done? We're going to do it better, stronger together. Why are we doing it? When I say why are we doing it, just say in your head, it's the right thing to do. If I ask you how we're going to do it, I want you to say in your head, better, stronger together. Because you see, there's no way for us to get started without understanding that we've got to do this together. And before I get too far along, I want to give a great big welcome. And I think we need to start really appreciating each other. And I want to start appreciation by a big thank you to Sue Lampert and the Alaska School Nutrition Conference Committee. Shake your hands, make some noise, give it up for them. They have done an outstanding job under adverse and challenging circumstances, and they have done it. Even though I know in Alaska, your Wi-Fi is not that great. And so y'all go in and out all the time, but let's give it up. Y'all did a great job, and I thank you for that. And so But we need to get started. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do. And we're here because you have heart. We're here because your cafeteria is the heart of the school. And we're here because this presentation is a heart rally. You are literally, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, the only people in the nation serving these children fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk. And by anyone's standard, that is a 5-star school meal. You serve it for breakfast, you serve it for lunch, and some of you are even serving it for dinner. So what I'm saying to you is, how are we going to get this job done? Better, stronger together. Why are we doing it? Because we know it's the right thing to do. And we thrive because we're learning to step up, we're learning to stand up, and we're learning to speak up. We must know that you are the most important person in the school system, and you are Alaska School Nutrition Strong. So that's who we are. That's what we do. And even Bernie says he's here to support Alaska School Nutrition. He's dressed for it. And we proudly present my presentation today is called Thrive, Don't Just Survive. We are 5-star Alaska School Nutrition Strong. And in my opinion, you are the magic kingdom for so many of these students because you are the only safe place for them. You know, since this pandemic, they're not coming to school as much and we're not seeing them as much. A lot of things are going by the board and it's heartbreaking. So whether you're serving them in your cafeterias or you're sending those food boxes and food bags home, you are the magic kingdom to some of these children, to most of them. And so what I have to say is you have to remember who you are. You are School Nutrition 5-star strong. Fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk. And so, and before I let you understand, this is who you're serving. 1 out of every 5, and now it's 1 out of every 4 kids in the United States is hungry. This makes me so sad. How could this be in the richest country in the world? It's just beyond comprehension. So I know it's difficult for each of y'all lately. I do. But I also know it's harder for these kids. I know that in my heart because teaching and being in school nutrition all these years. So I beg you to start seeing this little baby's face in your head every single day. When you get discouraged, I want you to touch your red shirt, touch your red tie, and just see this baby's face. I want you to thrive for them and thrive for him. And thrive. Here are some Alaskan people that I took, the kids that I took the last time. And so they are here for you. You are the most important people in the school system to these people, to these kids. They look to you. Some of them, you think they come to school just to learn to read and write. Oh my gosh, you got to understand many of them come to school simply so that they can be here for you. So what you have to do is, hey, you've got to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, as you serve them the 5-star meals that they so rightly want and deserve. And so we say, don't just survive, I want you to thrive because you are Alaskan strong. We're saving America 1 5-star school meal at a time. And because I love school nutrition and I specifically love Alaska AKSNA, I want you to understand as a teacher, I did teach in Port Tobacco, and we did have poverty and all kinds of things, and all of their kids came from CEP homes. And if you don't understand that you're the most important people in the school system, you won't be able to stand up and do this every single day with the energy that you need to, because fear drains you and makes you tired, whereas excitement fills you with energy. Because you have to understand, you are saving America, you are saving Alaska 1 5-star school meal at a time, because not only are you just feeding the students, you are inspiring their success and you are improving tomorrow, even during a COVID crisis. Gosh, I love you guys. And so you are 5-star. Hopefully you heard in my respectfully story that we are better, stronger together, that we must step up, stand up, and speak up to thrive. And if we didn't have that 10-second delay, I promise you, I'd be having y'all talk and yell and scream, but we can't because it would be just a calamity. But the only way I do know how to get through this perfect storm is do it together. Alaska AKSNA, you're much better, stronger when you are working together, creating together, and sticking together. It's the only way to get through this. Gosh, in the past, when I came up there to speak for y'all, I know I go into some of those kitchens, and I remember going into one of them, and y'all said, "You touch my cart, I'll stab you with a knife. I'll stab you. I'll stab you. I'll stab you with the knife." And if she thinks I'm going to do that, I did that again last year. And we started picking at each other. In the past, we used to pick at each other. I don't know about y'all, but in some of the places I went, they would be gossiping about each other. And then they'd be talking about each other behind each other's back. Listen to me. Number one, we don't have time for that this year. And number two, it will not help us. We have to stick together in a more interactive and collaborative way than we have ever done it in the past. I love the story of donated moose meat. Come on, who doesn't like a good moose stew? And just hearing that made me think, gosh, just passing these information back and forth to each other, it makes you think, how could we make that happen in our community? And instantaneously, I thought of 5 different ways to go out and make that happen. And so we are Alaska School Nutrition Strong because we are community, we are compassion, we are faith, we are joy, and we certainly are love. Only by doing school nutrition together, Alaska Strong, that we feed the future leaders of America, we give them 5-star meals, we inspire their success, and we improve their tomorrow. We are stepping up, standing up, and speaking up, because together we will do this much better. And so we've been hit by the perfect storm. It had started in 2020, but it's moving right into 2021. We came first with it kind of came right in the perfect storm. It brought a tsunami of change by radically affecting every single industry around the world. First, we had the COVID virus. The pandemic sailed right into our lives without warning. We had no clue this was coming at us. Then we had incredible amounts of social unrest around our nation and around the world. Then we had, but we're Alaskan Strong. Then we had all this new technology. This new technology is shifting from institutions, the power stance is shifting from institutions, government, big businesses, education institutions into the hands of connected individuals. That's you, that's me. We have never had this kind of power before, where our little cell phones have as much power as our computers used to. It's unbelievable. And nothing, hear me clearly, nothing will ever be the same. This perfect storm has shattered life as we knew it. But here's the good news. Fear, nothing will ever be the same. That is the fear part of it. But the exciting part of it is that we're laying the groundwork that hasn't emerged yet. That means you and me get to create a new way that we're going to do school nutrition. It's just that simple. And we have the choice to either go back to the way we were doing it, or we can create it in a different new way. Gavin showed us the data collection that he started. It was brilliant. That was a brilliant session. And so it tells us that we can start by using some of this data to change what we've been doing. And so we have to make a decision between fear or excitement. You get to choose. And in the past, we can either be fearful about this new normal that's coming at us, or excited that we can get to create the new normal. You and you alone get to choose whether you're going to survive or you're going to thrive. And so I have to take you back as human beings. We are wired back to threat-seeking radar. Let's go back to cave person time. Back in the day, when we came upon a mountain lion, we immediately reacted. Our threat-seeking radar went off and we went, danger, danger, danger. And we fought the mountain lion. We took flight, meaning we ran like hell from the mountain lion, or we froze and died. It was simple to live back then. And so your body reacted in survival mode. It immediately saw the threat and it emptied your stomach, it emptied your intestines, and so that you would be light enough to run. Your emotions reacted in survival mode and you screamed, run now. You didn't politely say, well, the mountain lion is here. Let's all just leave. No, you said, run right now. Or you froze and there was no survival. So we used fight, flight, or froze and died. And so today, you don't think we have mountain lions here today? They're just in different formats. And today we still have mountain lions attacking us every single day, every single minute of the day. It's COVID. It is COVID that is attacking us now. That's a new mountain lion. And USDA rules and regulations, new mountain lion. Lack of supplies and equipment is a new mountain lion. We still have the same threats. The problem is we're using fight, flight, or freeze the way we did back then. It will not work. With all this uncertainty, we foolishly trying to fight. How are you going to fight against a pandemic? How do we do it? We stand our ground. We're defending our position. We dig in. That's how we fight now. How are you going to dig in against a pandemic? You're going to dig in and say that would be a death wish. Well, there really isn't any COVID, so I will dig in. And so unbelievable. Or what we're trying to do is fight against it. And if we can't fight it, then we try and take flight. And today we don't run, we retreat. We remove ourselves either physically or mentally, and we deny. Well, there is no COVID. It's just like the flu. That's what I hear in Arizona. That's what they say. And you want to say that's plain absolute denial. And then we throw our hands up and we give up. So we're still using fight, we're still using flight, or we freeze, meaning we feel like we're powerless. We feel like we have to avoid the situation altogether because we're gripped by fear. So hear me clearly. Fight, flight, or freeze does not work with today's mountain lions. Today you have an unknown right after another, and it takes the body 3 to 4 hours to calm down after each and every one of these stressors. And you're having so many stressors each and every day that you never have a time to calm down, and fear will drain you. It is like taking a cork out of a bottle and it just drains right out. And so I am here to teach you the new F word for 2021. Now, not that one you already know, not that one, but the new F word for the 2021 is face it. I want you to forget fight, flight, or freeze, and that won't work anymore. I want you instead, let's face each new situation with flexibility and excitement. Alaska School of Nutrition, I invite you to choose to thrive. I invite you to thrive by facing each and every new situation with flexibility and excitement. Let's face it and let's thrive. And it's kind of like this: fear or excitement, you get to choose. You can thrive by facing it. But first, you have to look at your attitude. You really do. The only difference, hear me clearly on this, the only difference between fear and excitement is your attitude. That's the only difference. The very same mechanism that produces fear, fight, flight, or freeze, survival response, also produces excitement if you face it. Let me give you an example that you all can know. Some people are terrified, intense fear by a roller coaster, and some are excited by it. Yet we all get on the ride, don't we? And excitement is just one thought away from terrified. Hear me clearly on this. One thought away from terrified. Your solution to thrive, any fear can be transformed into excitement. Instead of fearing it and terrified, you can transform it into excitement. It works like this. First, you have to face it. You have to say it exists. We do have a pandemic. We do have a shortage of supply equipment. We do. These are things that we do. Change a single thought. All you have to do is change a single thought. Then you start bundling all like thoughts together, and you change one thought, then you change another thought, you change another thought, till you can create an entire attitude of excitement. And so it might work like this. And so you might say to thrive, you change one's thought, take one small step forward to get in line on the roller coaster. Change another thought, you move another forward, you get on the roller coaster, you change another thought, you say, oh, you survived the roller coaster. I'm a champion, I survived. And then you get off the roller coaster and want to change another thought and you say, let's do it again. And so that's how you can create an attitude of excitement instead of thing. One thought combined with another thought combined with another thought will propel you forward. You're rolling forward into a new attitude of excitement to thrive. Please understand, fear will drain you. That's why so many of us are going home exhausted every single day. And yet we're not cutting down trees. We're not building houses. We're not putting the earth back together again. Where fear is driving that, what is driving us. Excitement, on the other hand, fills us with energy. Excitement, like your red shirt, fills you with energy. So fear freezes the brain and focuses on what is being done to you, while excitement, on the other hand, stimulates the brain to push forward despite the fact that you have obstacles. I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying that we focus on the future with the priority of thriving, asking, what can I do to create a solution? And look at, here's Bernie again. He's showing excitement. Oh, you can't see him because we've got all these pictures up. You see, if I take those pictures down, now you can see him, I think. And you have to understand that what we do is we have to face it. And this is me, Sandy Ponte's Golden Lab. And right now, right here, everybody watching this Zoom needs to choose. Are you going to continue to survive? Are you going to decide right now to thrive? Sandy Ponte's dog's name is Mia, a Golden Lab. Isn't he a beauty? Isn't she a beauty? And she's, and that Golden Lab is saying, hey, be like me. I thrive because I face everything with excitement. A stick, yeah, I love a stick. Walk, yeah, I love a walk. Oh yeah, a tree, yeah, I love a tree. Everything excites me. That's what that dog says all the time. So you have to ask yourself, am I going to be ruled by fear, which drains me and puts me into survival mode? Or will I choose to be propelled forward by excitement, which makes me excited and enthused to find solution? A positive attitude fills me with energy so I can thrive. You have to choose. Don't just survive anymore. Let's stand up, step up, and speak up and face it with excitement and thrive, because you have to understand you're either thriving or you're surviving. And there is a huge difference on how we're going to do that. And around the nation, I guarantee you, fear has gripped school nutrition and is ruling our industry. Even though the need for school nutrition is through the ceiling right now, from our students, from their siblings, from their parents, their desperation is so high. They want and love our meals and they need our meals. And yet around the nation, our breakfast count is down, our lunch count is down, and our dinner count is down. That, my friends, simply is fear. Fear that I can't find the bags or the to-go containers. Fear that I can't get the ferry has stopped going to Cordova. Fear that the bypass mail is more weird than normal. Fear that our freezers are full and we have to go out in the snow. Oh, don't tell me you weren't doing that before. Fear that the internet in Alaska sucks. Well, it always did. And so fear that the parents are more out of their minds than usual. And fear of I'm just plain exhausted. And exhaustion, I guarantee you a portion of that is because we're fearful. So fear is exhausting. It's time to choose survive or thrive. And I want you to thrive. And so we have to decide. When we thrive, we decide that we challenge you. I challenge you to drive your attitude to excitement so you can feel enthused and engaged, to thrive, to flourish, and create the new normal. Change your attitude from fear to excitement. Let thrive be your watchword for this year. I want y'all to walk into your school so excited that you thrive because I'm doing the right thing, serving fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk in the exact right proportion to reduce and eliminate childhood obesity. I want you to understand that we can create our healthy year right here, right now. Thriving with excitement. Let that be your new normal. Ask yourself, how are we going to get this done? We're going to do it better, stronger together. Why are we doing it? Because it's the right thing to do. I will challenge you, and I challenge you to thrive this year, even in the middle of this perfect storm. Bring the hope to your community. Bring the hope to each other. You are the leaders of tomorrow. I want you to create a whole new way to work. Leave the gossip and complaints at home. Bring the hope for each other and for your community. I want us to thrive inside this perfect storm because we bring the hope with our attitude of excitement. Oh, come on. You know, there's always going to be obstacles. But as Alaska Strong School Nutrition professionals, never, never, never let anything or anybody steal your joy or steal your hope. Not your spouse, not the students, not the parents. You have to maintain that on your own. We're all on the same ship, and the ship of excitement and hope. And together we are Alaska Strong. We will get through this pandemic, but how we get through it, that's up to you. The choice is yours, surviving with fear or thriving with excitement. I choose excitement. I choose to thrive, and come along with me. Let's create the 5-star Alaska Strong. We thrive. We feed students 5-star school meals that inspire success and improve tomorrow. We know that we're saving America one 5-star school meal at a time because we are better, stronger together, and we are the most important people in the school system. We thrive. And so America and Alaska have missed you. And when we stop having school every day, isn't it funny how the parents and the kids are begging for schools to open? I don't know if that's happening in Alaska, but it's happening in Arizona every single day. So I need you to be very clear who you are. You're the most important person in the school system. And you have to understand how your thoughts determine your experience. In other words, what you think about, you bring about. That's the law of attraction. And whether you know the law of attraction or the law of the universe, it happens to you anyway. Let's say you sit under an apple tree. If you don't know the law of gravity, it does not matter. That apple is going to fall down and plunk you right on the head, whether you know the law or not. And the same thing with the law of attraction. Whether you know it or not, it's always working. And it works like this. When you judge a situation by what you can see physically, you get more of the same. If you say to yourself, I have no money, I have no money, I have no money, does the universe send you money? No, it sends you no money because it hears you keep saying, I have no money. And no money is what it hears, and that's what it sends you. Be careful what drops out of your mouth. Be careful of your judgments because it's like a powerful magnet that keeps attracting more and more and more of the same into your life. Instead of saying, I have no money, isn't it just as easy to say, money is on its way to me right now. I'm ready to receive it. Either way, you have no money. But when you say, I'm ready to receive it, you have a better chance of it coming to you than to say, I have no money. I guarantee you will get no money. But if I say, I'm ready to receive it, all of a sudden you might find $10 in a pair of old jeans. So please know the universe is always listening. Everything that drops out of your mouth is heard. You can either focus on attracting and be an attraction magnet for all the positive, powerful things in the world. You're going to have obstacles and difficulties, but you can focus on, I attract vibrant health, I attract harmonious relationships, and I attract solutions to school food challenges. Let's thrive by facing our challenges and focusing our energy on doing everything within our power to protect ourselves, our coworkers, and the people in our community by washing our hands, wearing our masks, social distancing, and focusing on attracting and maintaining vibrant health. I am a certain age. Okay, I am old, but I don't take a drop of medication. Not a drop, because I focus on vibrant health. I focus on harmonious relationships because I want us to be better, stronger together. I am thankful every day I get up out of bed. I'm very thankful that I am healthy. And together, I know we can attract vibrant health. We can attack the resources and the solutions to school nutrition that we need together for each other, with each other, and supporting each other. We are Alaska Strong. We feed students 5-star school meals that inspire success and improve tomorrow. And we will get through this pandemic, but it's how we're going to do it. That's up to you. It's time for you to step on up, stand up, speak up, and face your challenge, face it, and know that you're going to thrive with excitement. We are better, stronger together. And I want you to know, make some noise right now. Throw those hands up in the air, swing those hands, stand up, touch your shirt, sit down, shake your pom-poms. Let everybody know you're excited about what you do and how you do it. And so because Alaska Strong, we thrive. Sue Lampert and the Alaska School Nutrition Association invited me to say that Alaska Strong, we are Alaska Strong, we are better, stronger together. And even though we're muted, I know that you can make some noise. And so we know that, remember, you attract what you think about, what drops out of your mouth. Be very careful this year. If you think or say we can't feed the kids because we don't have the resources, the universe will send you no resources. And so what you've got to do is today, I thrive. I'm excited because I know the solutions and resources are on the way to me right now. Which thought do you think you have a better chance of attracting what you want? If you don't like the road you're walking on, start paving a new one. And so remember, you are the most important people in the school system. And we are community in Alaska. We are community. We get involved. We bring the hope. Like I said, I taught in a small postage stamp town, Port Tobacco in Maryland. Everybody knew everybody. And so when I'd come home from a hard day's work at school, I might have complained about my day. The problem was everything that dropped out of my mouth, I said to my friends and family, let me tell you what, my friends and family passed that on to other people. And all of a sudden I put my own school down. My gosh, complaints and bad mouthing didn't lift our community. Instead, it put my school down. So Alaska is really a big, small town. We all know that. I'm sure none of you complain about your day when you go home from work. Not. And so Alaska Strong means get involved simply by pay attention what falls out of your mouth. When you're either lifting your community or you're smashing it. And so my mom always said, if you can't say anything nice, then don't say anything at all. I know you all finished that for me. And so you know it too. So don't you like your mama? Do what your mama told you. Don't say anything at all if it can't be something positive. Take action to get involved. For me, that meant becoming very conscious of my words and the things that dropped out of my mouth. I choose to speak only life-giving, encouraging, and supportive words. So the sweet fruit is produced as a result of my words. I invite you to make your words as community peacemaker. Instead of complaining, start encouraging and bringing the hope to your community. And so what we have together, we are better, stronger together. And so we have to bring the hope to each other and for others. We're better, stronger together. Why? Because we're doing the right thing by serving fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk in the exact right proportions to reduce and eliminate childhood obesity. And Alaska Strong means you are compassion, taking action. You see, pity is acknowledging your pain. Sympathy is I care about your pain. Empathy is I feel your pain. But compassion is action-oriented, and it means I strive to relieve your pain. You bring the food to hungry children. My gosh, you're the most compassionate people on the planet. I just so love you. So be kind to yourself. We must be compassionate first to each other, but first to ourselves. You can't give away what you don't have. If you don't have the energy to give compassion away, it's because you're letting fear drain you. So energize by getting excited about what you do. Give yourself compassion first, then pass that compassion on to your coworkers and each other. Give each other a break, then pass that compassion on to the students and the parents. So Alaska Strong, we have compassion. We feed student 5-star school meals with compassion that inspires success and improve tomorrow. And Alaska Compassion takes action. And we have Alaska Strong means that we have faith in ourselves and each other. We bring the faith. We recognize that we're bigger than our circumstances, no matter how big our circumstances. And second, that we know we're unbreakable, unshakable, and unstoppable. Take action. Know what you want. I want you to have the strength and faith to experience your best school year yet. Believe you can have it. Believe that you can create a positive school year, regardless of the circumstances and the things that are happening. And do 3, what they do in the Olympics. They always start with the end in mind. They see themselves bending down as they accept that gold medal. I want you to already start thinking about what would the best school year ever look like to you? How would it feel? And then 4, I want you to surround yourself by positive go-getters. I want you to create a positive go-getter club in your school. Ask your colleagues to join. Make it a habit to say 10 positive things to each other every single day. Ask your colleagues to only speak positive, supportive, encouraging, kind words that encourage you and others to have faith, to remember your strengths. And then 5, take action towards your best school year yet. Don't let fear stop you. Choose excitement to thrive. Nothing happens in life until you take action. So you have to take action. And I know you all know my dear friend Sandy Ponte from Cordova City School District, but I want to tell you about Sandy Ponte. And Sandy and her school team, Sandy and Stacy and Rowena, they all are out there in Cordova City. Unless you think they have it easy over there in Cordova, let's face the facts. The only way to get to Cordova is by plane or ferry. And they have had the same challenges that you have and some more. So let's see how Sandy and her team faced this Cordova, this COVID pandemic. Number 1, you have to know what you want. Sandy knew what she wanted. See, the ferry stopped, not just because of COVID, but they ran out of money. So you couldn't get from Cordova back to the mainland of Alaska. And little Miss Sandy had bought a truck, but she was going to take that truck back because it wasn't the one she wanted. But the ferry stopped and she couldn't take her truck back. So instead, what did she do? She saw what was happening. She created a solution. She bought the truck. Not even I would have thought of a solution like that. I thought that was brilliant. Number 2, Sandy and her team believed that they could do and have a great school year. So they had faith that they could create a positive school year, even during the midst of a pandemic, regardless of what anybody said or their circumstances. During the regular school year, Sandy and her team serve about 230 kids each week, and so each day. And Sandy didn't want her count to go down. So she didn't want that count to go down. And so, because she knew her kids were hungry. So she and her team faced it with faith that they could keep the meal count up as Cordova could continue to thrive. So unlike most schools around the nation during the pandemic, Sandy's meal count went up and the rest of the schools in America went down. Sandy began feeding over 400 students. She was thriving. If one school, to hear me clearly, if one school program in America can thrive, it means that every school district and every school can thrive during this pandemic. Because if one can do it, everybody can do it. And so the other thing is they had to start with the end in mind. They knew that 1 out of every 5 kids in America is hungry. In Cordova, it's 1 out of every 4. And Sandy saw the end in mind. How was she going to feed these hungry kids? So she faced this instead of just closing her eyes, fight, flight, or fear. She faced it and she figured out, what could her team do? How could they create the solutions they needed? Number 4, she surrounded herself with positive go-getters. She and her team conspired and created together to work together to find these solutions. And what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And she focused on thriving and what are we going to do to face and be flexible and create solutions? And she took action. Sandy and her team took actions on what they did. First, they faced the fact that they needed help and support. The solution, they contacted the fabulous Alaska state agencies. I don't know about y'all, but you don't seem to know this. Y'all have the best state agencies in the nation. Shake your hands, make some noise on that. That is truth. I've spoken in every single state in this nation, and I guarantee you, Alaska has the best state agencies, the best people that I've seen. And so that's who Sandy contacted. They got the waivers and things they needed to move forward. Then Sandy faced the facts that the kids weren't coming. The parents weren't coming to pick up the meals. And so what they did was the solution they came up with was they had to move their food delivery times. Instead of serving it in the morning like they had been doing, they moved it to 4 to 6:30 p.m. when more parents were off of work and could come pick up the goods. Then they faced the fact that the parents, some of them didn't have transportation, and then the kids couldn't get the foods. So solution was they personally started delivering to anyone who was not able to pick up the food. Unbelievable. And so what I've got to say to you is that not only in Sandy's Cordova, but there are other schools around the nation that are doing it as well. Kingsport City Schools in Tennessee told me that they faced the fact that their parents just were, so many of them were out of work that they couldn't pick up the goods. They couldn't pick up the food. And so what they did was, here's what they did. They knew if they went to their bus drivers, not all bus drivers would want to do this. So they only went to the positive go-getters. They created a positive go-getter club like I asked them to do. And they got some bus drivers that would do it. And then they went to, they didn't know, all the classroom assistants wouldn't help. So they went to a few that were positive and they got them to help. And together, that's what they started doing. And they started taking the meals to everybody's home, and each one of these kids could come out and get it. So we can do this. Let's take a minute to celebrate with heartfelt thanks to Sandy and her team. Make some noise, shake your hands, shake your pom-poms, celebrate each other. Let's celebrate them. Let's celebrate each other. So let's celebrate our state agency. Come on, shake your hands, make some noise. And let's celebrate Alaska School Nutrition. Unbelievable what you're doing. And so the other thing we have to know is we have to bring the joy. I want you to know that smile, it does not matter whether it's not your personality or culture, because I have heard that so many times. Well, MGM, you want me to smile, but I just don't. My culture means we don't smile. Well, honey, I don't care. If that's your culture, I don't care. What I'm saying to you is you smile for the kids and for each other. Next time you think you don't want to smile, you think about this little baby. Everybody smiles in the same language. Don't you love her? I love you. And so, yeah, you have to know I have this superpower where my joy and kindness rubs off on everyone around me. I think that's a great superpower to have. Kindness and joy rubs off on everybody around me. And lastly, Alaska Strong means we are love. Unconditional love. We have love for ourselves. We have love for each other. We blanket ourselves in each other with love because we know it's all about caring for each other first so that we can give it away to the kids, to the parents, to the siblings. We have love for what we do for a living. You've got to enjoy school food service again. You've got to bring back that joy that you took the job in the first place. You've got to love your colleagues. I know some of y'all can be wonderful. But what we have to do is embrace our colleagues, give them the benefit of the doubt. We never know what they're going through. We have to have love for our students and our parents. And I know some of them can be challenging, but have love for them and know that we only pass on information about ourselves, our colleagues, and our students that are peaceful, that are life-sustaining and encouraging. We don't speak, again, gossip or judgment. We let those go. We only talk about things that work for our students. And so we are Alaska Strong. We are love. So make some noise. Hopefully today I have touched your heart. Because you see, I can't teach your mind. You will not change anything until I can touch your heart. You have to understand, I think you're the most important people in the whole wide school system. You absolutely are saving America one 5-star school meal at a time. You have to make a decision today. Are you going to choose fear to survive? Are you going to thrive with excitement? And you've got to take the challenge as leaders of tomorrow, thrive inside this perfect storm. Bring the hope to your community, because feeding 5-star school meals to these students inspires success and improves tomorrow. Why should we do what we do? Because it's the right thing to do, to feed these kids fruits, vegetables, whole grain, protein, and milk in the exact right proportions that are reducing and eliminating childhood obesity. And we must face all of the challenges that we've got facing us with flexibility and excitement, because excitement energizes, fear drains. You have to make that decision. We need to stand up, step up, speak up, and face it, that our challenges, so that we can thrive with excitement. And so what I say to you is, we are better, stronger together. And change starts with you, but it doesn't start until you do. And so you have to make a decision today, whether you're going to make this change or stay the same. And I say it's time. So remember, you are the most important people in the school system, because 1 out of every 5 kids in America is hungry, and you're the only ones feeding them the way you are. I would like to invite you to my website, which is www.mgmsuperstar.com. I have taken all of the videos from the day, and I am making them into some fun videos that will be able to be posted up on your website. You can call me or text me at 480-280-6776. I have an entire new program, and hopefully I will be emailing you all of the new professional standards. I've got a professional development of customer service for kids. And actually, it's a new program that I've just started. It's online, so you can do it at your leisure, whether you're a 2 o'clock in the morning person or you're 4 o'clock in the afternoon person. You can do it on your time. It's videos. It's a fun little fun facts. It's kind of an interesting, different way to get your professional development. I'll be sending that out, and there's more information about that on my website. And you will get a discount for all the people from Alaska School Nutrition that sign up for any of my professional discount. You will get a professional discount. So once again, I say to you, I don't just like Alaska School Nutrition. I adore you. I love you. You are my favorite. Shake your hands, shake your pom-poms, make some more noise. Let's in, and we'll unmute and unmute, make some noise, and let us know that you are exceptional. God bless. Have a great year. It's been my honor and my privilege to speak to you. And of course, Sandy, you're going to be next year's chairman. Don't forget, everybody, write on your evaluations. Bring MGM back. That's what you want to do. All right. I love you. God bless. Have a great day.
Yeah. Woo-hoo. Good job.
Thank you. Let me stop share.
Always a blast.
Thank you, MGM. That was fantastic. I just love you. I just like to thank the conference committee. It was Joe Dawson, Sandy Ponte, Gavin Northey, and Rachel Spencer for putting this together. I think it went pretty well. No major glitches. We will be sending an evaluation, probably in a Survey Monkey out, so we can get your feedback on how we can improve if we do this again. I just really appreciate you guys taking your time. Don't forget to do your CEU credits. There was a form that was sent out, the very first email that I sent out, so you can get credit for this, your professional standards, you'll get credit, and put that in your personnel file at work. And just, I think it's great. Sandy, did you want to say some closing? Because she will be next year's president. Woohoo!
No, thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, MGM. That was awesome. We love you. Mia says thank you. She's been here today and yesterday.
That's great.
Yep. And thank you, everybody on the committee. You guys did an awesome job.
Thank you. The vendor show, I want to make sure everybody goes and supports all the vendors that paid to have a virtual booth go in, and I went through and looked at all of them, and there's some really interesting videos. There's all kinds of information. There's contact people. You have your broker, you have your sometimes you just have the manufacturer, the customer rep to get a hold of. So you can ask questions, so go and do that. You can do that at your own time. You won't have to rush through like in the real person vendor show. So I just want to thank, I know there's a couple of the vendors online here. and I just want to thank you for your support. Teresa and Rogers and Gail, I think, might be here. Some people from Titan. Just thank you so much for your support. We really, really rely on your support throughout the year. And they donated all the door prizes too. So,
Wow.
Yeah. So, anybody have any closing questions or thoughts or?
Yeah, I'd just like to, I would just like to thank, it is really true what MGM said regarding the state agency that we work with. You guys are phenomenal, and you just really support us. And I know Joe said something about retirement the other day, and somebody in my office said, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do if Joe retires?" And they were really like, you want to talk about fear? They were really like distraught. And they're like, "God," I go, "I don't know. We're just going to make sure we retire before she does." I don't know. I don't have any answers for that. So
she's holding up two fingers. She doesn't mean it.
Yeah. So, I just really want to thank all of you. You guys are really amazing and a great team. And I just wanted to say that before we signed off.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a good team here. We're all in it for the kids. That's our whole vocal point. I know Beth works hard, and then we have Kyde's online, Kyde Coils here, Debbie Soto, Joe Dawson, Tony Warren, myself, Rhonda Biles, Jennifer Charon, and who else am I forgetting? Carol Baker is our new grants administrator.
And I want to give a shout out to Tony.
Oh, Anne Marie Martin, sorry.
Yeah, Tony. Let's give a shout out to Tony. He's kept everything going today. So I want to give a big shout out to Tony.
That's right. The man of many duties. We couldn't run this office without Tony. I'm telling you right now. So, yeah.
Literally, because he's the only one in the office.
I'm crashing his party right now, so it feels weird to be in the office, but yeah.
All right, clink those glasses for those adult beverages. I know that you have under your desks. Here we go. I knew it.
Woohoo! All right. Well, no, I want to check the chat, make sure we got everything. The virtual expo will be online through the end of February, so you have time still to look at those things. So fantastic. Just look out for the email from me about the survey evaluation and evaluation survey. And I really thank all the presenters, MGM, for being fantastic. Everyone who took their time out to present during the conference, I really appreciate you. And we will see you next year, hopefully in person in Anchorage, the last week of January, 2022. Woohoo!
Yay!
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Hi,
thank you.
Do you want to dance?